Good morning to all of you. Myself, Mohit Gautam, and today I am starting my new topic: fundamentals and techniques used in the biology, means molecular biology. Let's talk about the first topic: is chromatography. Chromatography is a physical method for separation of compounds, and the chromatography is based on the fact that samples distribute or partition itself to different extent into two different immiscible phases, which is described by partition or distribution coefficient kd. If we consider two immiscible phases a and b, the kd is equal to the concentration of sample in phase a divided by concentration of samples in phase b. The twist TSWEET TSWEET, a Russian botanist referred to as the father of chromatography, is credited for the development of chromatography. He employed the technique to separate various plant pigments such as chlorophyll, xanthophyll, by passing solution of these compounds through a glass column packed with a finely divided calcium carbonate. The separated species appeared as colored bands on the column, which accounts for the name he chose for the method. Let's discuss about the chromatography is based on what phases. There are two immiscible, which we are considered earlier, that the Kd is equal to concentration of samples in phase A and divided by concentration of the sample phase B. These two immiscible phases could be a solid and a liquid, or a gas and a liquid, or a liquid and another liquid. One of the two phases is stationary phase. In both of the A and B, these are the phases. One of the two should be a stationary phase, a solid or a liquid spotted on a solid. For stationary phase could be a solid or a liquid supported on a solid and does not move, and the other phase is mobile phase and moves with respect to first. Mobile phase moves with the respect to stationary phase. The mobile phase may be a liquid called liquid chromatography, and if the mobile phase is gas, called gas chromatography. On the depended on the both gas and liquid, they have termed as liquid chromatography and gas chromatography. All chromatographic methods involves passing a mobile phase through a stationary phase. All the chromatography is based on the principle that all the two phases are chosen so that the component of the sample distributed themselves between the mobile and stationary phase to varying degrees. There should be a stationary phase and a mobile phase. Let's discuss about the classification of chromatographic methods. We have earlier know about what is chromatography, which means physical method for separation of compounds. Any compound can be separated by the chromatography, which should be a physical compound. Classification of the chromatographic methods. Chromatography method can be classified in two fundamental ways. The first classification is based on the physical means by which the stationary mobile phases are brought in contact. On this phases, chromatography is classified into column and planar chromatography. The first, which are we are talking about the first classification type. The first classification based on the physical means by which the stationary and mobile phases are brought into contact. Mobile and stationary phase एक दूसरे के पास पास लाते हैं, and on this basis chromatography is classified into the two types, column and planar chromatography. Let's discuss about the planar chromatography. The stationary phase is present as or on in a plane. The plane can be a paper. The stationary phase should be on a plane, and plane should may be a paper and serving such as impregnated by a substrate as the stationary bed. Paper chromatography. We are earlier discuss about the first time the father of chromatography named TSWET Tashvet, which is who is a Russian botanists have used this paper chromatography to separate various pigments of the plant such as chlorophyll and xanthophyll. Let's discuss about our other type of the planar chromatography. And, one is paper chromatography and second one is a layer of solid particles spread on a spot like glass plate. This when we are spreading a layer of the silica gel or on the and a stationary phase on the glass, this is called as thin layer chromatography. Planar chromatography is also termed open bed chromatography. In thin layer chromatography, the stationary phase is thin layer of silica gel. We are earlier known, I have discussed about the thin layer chromatography that the thin layer chromatography contains a stationary phase of a media is that is made of silica gel or alumina or on a glass, metal or plastic plate. Where in the TLC we should have a glass or maybe a plastic or maybe a metal plate and a silica or alumina as a stationary phase. Most commonly, silica gel is used as a stationary phase. In silica gel, the silicon atoms are joined via oxygen atom in a giant covalent structure. The other commonly used stationary phase is alumina. In Coleman chromatography, we have earlier know about the two type of the chromatography in which we are talking about. First is planar chromatography and second one is Coleman chromatography. In Coleman chromatography, the stationary bed is within a tube. The particles of the solid stationary phase or support coated with a liquid stationary phase. Let's recall what we have learned about TLC paper chromatography, which we have a solid media as a stationary phase. But in the Coleman chromatography, the stationary bed is within a tube. Within a tube, there is a stationary bed. The particle of the solid stationary phase or support coated with a liquid stationary phase may fill the whole inside volume of the tube. In the tube, we have the stationary phase or supported coated with a liquid stationary phase may fill the whole inside the volume of the tube, which have used in the Coleman chromatography, or be concentrated on or along the inside tube walls, leaving an open unrestricted path for the mobile phase in the middle part of the tube. And there is a very open fine phase which is open for the mobile phase. This open tubular column is used as a chromatographic method for the chromatography and named as Coleman chromatography. And let's discuss about some important terms like first is chromatography. What chromatography represent? Chromatography represents a separation technique, whereas a chromatograph is a system for performing chromatography. We the technique is known as chromatography, but the system we use for doing this performing this chromatography is called chromatogram. Chromatograph, the chart displaying the time dependent change in signal intensity as a result of the separation is called as chromatogram. But the time and the signal intensity, time dependent change and the signal intensity analysis chart is which displays the chromatograph and chromatography technique used and the result is known as chromatogram. Analyte. An analyte or a solute is the chemical entity being analyzed. Analyte is what we are analyzing, what we are used for showing that this compound is different from this compound. This is called analyte. Detector is a device that monitors the concentration of the analyte. Detector is the device that used for the monitors the concentration of the analyte. Eluent. Eluent is an alternative term used for the mobile phase. We have two phases, stationary phase and the second one is mobile phase. The eluent word is used here for the mobile phase. Effluent. Effluent is the mobile phase that exists in column. Eluent is the mobile phase which is eluted out, like an we call it analyte. We want to analyte it. But effluent is the mobile phase that exists in the column. Inside the column, this eluent is known as effluent. A more fundamental classification of chromatographic method is based on the type of mobile and the stationary phase and the mechanism of retention, the manner in which the analyte is interact with the stationary phase. Based on the stationary phase, there are two subgroups of gas chromatography: gas solid chromatography and gas liquid chromatography. Based on the stationary phase, we have talking about the two type of the chromatographic technique, a planar chromatography and second one is uh, Coleman chromatography. And in the Coleman chromatography, we have talked about the stationary phase, and in all the chromatography, the basic is the we have should have a stationary phase, and second one we have a mobile phase. On the basis of that stationary phase, it could be a gas liquid, gas solid phase, that is known as gas liquid chromatography and gas solid chromatography. In similar fashion, the liquid chromatography can be subgrouped into liquid solid chromatography and liquid liquid chromatography. The chromatographic technique use several types of interaction to separate solutes. We have a different type of chromatic techniques for the separation of the solutes, and the interaction of to several interaction are here are in the world that use for the chromatography. Based on the type of interaction between the solutes, there are several chromatography modes such as partition, adsorption, size exclusion, and ion exchange chromatography. On the basis of the different type of chromatography techniques we have, but on the basis of interaction, how the solute is separated out from the solution, the mechanism is different and different. So that we have four type, majorly four type of methods, techniques used for the chromatography. First is partition chromatography, second is adsorption chromatography, and third is size exclusion chromatography, and fourth is ion exchange chromatography. Next, in the next class, we are in detail studying about the on the basis of mobile phase and stationary phase. We have four type of chromatography, which is basically based on the interaction of solutes to identify the compound and to to separate the compounds from a solution. Thank you. Bye bye.